Hello, hello everyone. Today we're gonna learn how to find measures of complementary, supplementary, vertical, and adjacent angles. Okay, so let's try some problems here. Okay, so we have this big angle that encompasses two angles actually. All right, so it has this angle right here. Okay, this angle right here and this angle. Okay, so we need to find the measure of the original angle before. Remember, these two angles are adjacent because they are separated by this ray. Okay, so that angle H, the original angle, equals angle when you add the sum of the um, two angles, two adjacent angles. So 48 plus 27, all right? So when you add these two numbers together, you get 75 degrees. So measure of angle H, this big angle is 75 degrees, okay? So that's what we need to put right here, 75 degrees. Okay, in here, when we see the box, we know how many degrees. We know that it is 90 degrees, right? So, measure of angle C plus its adjacent angle, which is 28 degrees, equals 90 degrees. 90 degrees, okay? So, we subtract 28 from both sides. Sorry about that. All right, so we undo addition, right? So measure of angle C equals 90 minus 28, which is 62 degrees. So this angle right here has to be 62 degrees. Okay, so let's put this 62 degrees. Okay. Now we don't have the diagram, but always you can, draw it to get a full picture of what's meant by that. So the measure of an angle is 21 degrees. What is a measure of its complementary? Complementary, that means the two angles add up to be 90 degrees, right? So the complementary, we don't know it, so we can say like measure of angle, any letter you want, okay? Plus 21 equals 90 degrees. Why 90 degrees? Because it's complementary angles. Complementary angles add up to be 90 degrees. You undo addition, you subtract 21 from both sides, so you get the measure of the missing angle is 69. Okay, so in here we just put 69. Okay. This time instead of complementary we have supplementary. Supplementary angles, they are on the same line. They just got separated by a ray or a segment, okay? And these, for example, X and Y, they are supplementary angles. They add up to be 180 degrees, right? So we can just put 180 in here so we remember that supplementary angles add up to be 180 degrees. Okay, so the measure of one of these angles, for example, in here is 33 degrees. What is the measure of this one? So we have 33 degrees plus, let's say, angle Y equals 180 degrees, right? So now we need to undo the positive by subtracting from both sides of the equation. So measure of angle Y has to be 147 degrees. Okay? How do you know? When you add these two numbers, you get the supplementary, the total, the linear. All right, so 147 degrees. It is 147 degrees. Okay. So let's say go to a higher level and see a different, because here we're dealing just with decimals. Okay, in here you need to find the measure of angle Z. We know this is straight line, right? They add up to be 180 degrees. And even in here, they told us this angle is 90 degree. So we have 180 minus 90, we get the 90 degrees, right? So these two angles right here are complementary. They add up to be 90 degrees, right? So measure of angle Z plus 64 equals 90 degrees. So, now you need to undo addition. 64, you subtract 64 from both sides. So you get measure of angle Z equals 26 degrees. Okay, or you can say, okay, 64 plus Z plus 90 equals 180. You combine like terms, you subtract. More steps will get you the exact same answer, but this is like shorter steps. Okay. So 26 degrees. And okay, this is like different type of problem. Okay, the measure of an angle is 5 times the measure of its a complementary angle. What is the measure of each angle? I don't know that angle. And the other angle is 5 times 5 times 5 times 5x, right? Of it's a complementary. When we see complementary right away, we know it's a 90 degrees. They add up to be 90 degrees, right? The measure of an angle is 5 times its complementary. So when I have these two angles, they add up to be 90 degrees. The measure of an angle is 5 times the measure of its complementary. So when you add them, 1x plus x is 6x equals 90 degrees. So now you need to undo multiplication. So you divide both sides by 6. So x equals 15. So one of the angles is 15 degrees, okay? But the other one is 5 times. So what does it mean? That means 5x, right? That means 5 times. What did you get for x? 15. So 15 times 5 is 75. 75, right? So now how do we know our answers is right or wrong? What will happen if you add 15 and the 75? You get 90. So these two angles are complementary. They add up to be 90 degrees. That's a way to check your answer, okay? So one of the angles will be, it doesn't matter which is which, so you can just put the 15 first and then 75 or vice versa. It doesn't really matter. Did I put 1, 5 in here, 15, and the other one is 75, okay? Keep practicing and get ready for tomorrow's activity. Have a good day, everyone.